with your American novel classes. Okay, so I hope that you guys come up to the class. You ask your. Okay, you're not able to talk. Oh, that's cool. Um, so I hope you can hear me, right? You can hear my voice. Is that okay with you? Okay, cool, 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 cool then. Okay. So, like, as I have been assigned with like American novels for you, first I will begin with your understanding with what American novels are. Okay. American novels, like, basically they started they were compared to poetry and sermons, and they took their imitations and they took their inspiration from British fiction, and they focused on moral lessons. I'm talking of the very early American period. It's before the 1820s, and they focused on moral lessons and notable classics of the American novel that came in the romantic Renaissance. Ranges from the period of 1820 to 5. Please keep this in mind that this American romanticism came into American novels 1820 novel that you're going to read or we're going to discuss today. It is based. My voice is breaking. Is it? Am I audible right now? Okay. So the Romanticism and the American Renaissance, it came up from the period of 1820 to 1865. And what happened in this period is, this period, it saw the rise of distinctively American themes. There was no particular American themes earlier. Earlier, the American novels were inspired from the British fictions, as I have mentioned earlier, which was based on what were these American themes? They were frontier life, democracy, individualism, moral struggle, and there were n number of concepts. But the first initial is in the American, Renaissance they had, which had from 1820, which was occurred from 1820 to 1865. This period saw special American themes, you can say. They consisted of frontier life, democracy, war, individualism, moral struggles. Okay, am I audible? Suman, am I audible with you? Okay. I guess there was some network fluctuation and I got stuck in between. I was trying to talk, but I couldn't. Any which ways. Now, as I was telling you, that there were many phases in which these American, novels, they were refined from time to time. But the novel that today we will be focusing on, that is The Last of the Mohicans, which is written by James F. Cooper. Okay. Um, okay. So there are certain units in these blocks. First one says the beginnings. The second one says the man and the milieu and the moment. Then there is a detailed analysis of the novel, and then there would be your syllabus says that perspectives of the novel, that is of two units. So these this novel specifically can be seen through two lenses. It's not that you focus on one single lens through which you have an interpretation of the novel, but rather it can be seen through two lenses. And again, in the next block, you have Sister Carrie. Then you have The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby again is one of can be considered as one of the classics in American novels. So you won't be able to talk, but will you be able to type of the questions that I ask you? Yes, am I audible? I will be telling you about the characters because you need to. I won't only mention about the characters. I'll tell you the story, and then I'll be mentioning you about the characters. If I tell you about the characters, what will you do? It's only a character analysis question, and that is not happening because the your unit consists of many and aspects of this particular novel. It is not only about the characters. Still, if you want me to be very specific with it, go ahead. Just give me 1 minute. I'm getting stuck actually. That is the reason I've kept quiet. Just give me a minute. Actually, I was operating from my laptop. I logged in through my phone because I was stuck off. Yes, I can see. I can't see a message as well. Mm, okay. Other Native American characters in the novel, particularly Uncas and Sugar, are depicted as purely good, while others are portrayed as purely evil. Is this fair or accurate? See, when it comes to literature, it is not at all. You cannot say any depiction of the character whether it is fairly accurate representation or this is fair, because we cannot decide that. Because that is why in this novel particularly we have two things, two perspectives. So when you uh, have you gone through the critical theories where there is the perspective of the other perspective is usually considered, and there is nothing as such of fair depiction or fair accurate representation. And that is why I begun with the fact that here you have in your syllabus you have been assigned with the last bit, that is the that is two perspectives. I'll be telling you which one. I'm actually stuck with my system. I'm operating for my phone right now. I'm fixing my system up. Just give me a minute. Okay. So as you have jumped directly into the question, as in I should be providing you with the character analysis of the entire thing. So the Last of Mohicans, first know what is the summary, what is the story about, what is the setting, and then you may decide to delve into the characters. Okay. So the Last of the Mohicans, it is written by James like Fenimore or F. Cooper, and it is a historical novel which is set during the French and the Indian War. And what kind of theme basically this novel follows is the frontier line theme, and it follows the journey of Colonel Munro's daughter, that is Cora and Alice. And they what are they doing actually? The journey starts to Fort William Henry to reunite with their father. They are apart from their father, and they want to reunite with their father. They have an escort along with them, that is Major Duncan Hayward, and and you know this escort is betrayed by the Huron scout Magua, as you have mentioned the character earlier, and he harbors a grudge against Munro. Magua is harboring like he has a grudge against Munro, and that is the reason he betrays the escort. They encounter the frontiersman Hawkeye and the last of the Mohican tribe and his son Unkes. Like the questions that you have asked about the two characters, that is Chinka and his son Unkes. And the group faces numerous dangers, including attacks by Huron warriors and the captivity. And the story, culminates in a very tragic confrontation where Unkes and Dora, they die while Magua being killed by Hawkeye. And this novel explores the themes of love, loyalty, racial conflict, the changing landscape of the American frontier. Now, coming to the character analysis of characters there. The first character that we can take here is um, Hawkeye. So the novels, he is considered as the novel's frontier hero, and he's a woodsman. a hunter and a scout. He's the hero, adopted. Hawkeye is the hero's adopted name, and his real name here is Natty Bumpo. Okay. He's a very famous marksman. Hawkeye carries a rifle named, Killdeer, and has earned the frontier name. He has a particular name or a title that was conferred to him, La Long Carabine, or the Long Rifle, which was given to him in honor of his deeds. Hawkeye moves more comfortably in the forest than in civilization. He loves his own, own space, his and his own surrounding, and he's more comfortable in his loneliness than in the civilization. And his closest bonds are with Indians. His close bonds, he builds up a good rapport with the Indians, particularly Chinkaguk and the Unkans and Ankus, his son, but he frequently asserts that he has no Indian blood. As a cultural hybrid, he is regarded as a cultural hybrid, and a character who mixes elements of different cultures. He provides a link between the Indians and the whites. So basically, he is a hybrid in the entire story, yet he is regarded as the hero of the entire novel. Then comes Major Duncan Hayward. He is a young American colonist from the South who has risen to the rank of a major in English army. He is courageous. He has words they mean well, courageous, well-meaning, and noble. That is how you can describe this character. He often finds himself out of place in the forest, thwarted by his lack of knowledge about the frontier and the American and the Indian relations. He is not really aware of what is happening around, and because of his lack of his knowledge, he is usually found in the he finds himself out of the forest. Hayward's unfamiliarity with land sometimes creates problems for Hawkeye, the dexterous woodman and the leader, the character which we have mentioned, earlier. Then comes the character son, and he is the youngest and the last member of the Indian tribe known as the Mohicans. So Mohicans is basically a tribe, and he is the youngest and basically the last member alive out of this tribe. He is noble, he's proud, he's self-possessed, as young, people usually have. He has that, strength in him where his pride takes over everything, and he feels that, I'm noble, I'm chivalrous, I'm he is full of pride as well. And this fellow, he falls in love with Cora Munro, the daughter of Colonel Munro, who was traveling to the fort to get united with his with her father. Ankis falls in love with Cora, and what happens is he suffers tragic consequences for his desires for a forbidden interracial coupling. So, his story is a kind of tragic ending because he suffers because of his desires, where this particular coupling is not allowed, or this coupling is prohibited. Thoughts the evil Magua's desire to marry Cora, and Ankis also functions as Hawkeye's adopted brother and learns about leadership from Hawkeye. So next comes the character that is Ankis's father, that is Chinkaguk. He is one of the two surviving members of the Mohican tribe, one being his son and the other being he himself. And he is an old friend of Hawkeye. He is also known as Le Gros Serpent. That means the great snake, because of his crafty intelligence. He possesses a kind of uh, super intelligent power, for which people call him as the great snake, Le Gros Serpent. Then you have David Gemmer. He is a young Calvinist attempting to carry Christianity to the frontier through the power of his songs. Ridiculously, like out of place in the wilderness, Gamut is the subject of Hawkeye's frequent mockery. So basically, he is bullied, and like he becomes the topic of discussion for Hawkeye, and but not in a good way, but in a sarcastic way. Not sarcastic exactly, but mockery. Gamut matures into Hawkeye's helpful ally, frequently supplying him with important information. So basically, like they are a team, they know what they are doing, and this person provides important source of information throughout the entire interview. Then comes Cora Munro. So Cora Munro is the one who fell, Ankis fell in love with, and she is Colonel Munro's eldest daughter, a solemn girl with a noble bearing, and Cora's dark complexion derives from her mother's background. Cora attracts the love of Mohican warrior Ankes and seems to return his feelings cautiously. She suffers the tragic fate of sentimental heroine. Okay. Now comes Alice Munro, Colonel Munro's youngest daughter by his Scottish wife and Cora's half sister. Girlish and young, she tends to faint at stressful moments. So, a typical little girl, or I mean, say an adolescent behavior that she carried. Whenever there was some amount of stress, she did tend to fall, or like she showed that she was very weak, a typical girlish behavior. Okay, so Alice and Hayward, they love each other in this novel. Alice's blonde hair, fair skin, and weakness makes her a conventional counterpart to the racially mixed and fiery Cora. These two sisters are actually very opposite in their appearance, in the mannerisms that they carry, that the characters they are portrayed as. One is depicted as having a dark complexion, yet very courageous, valiant. But this particular girl, she being the younger one and a half sister to Cora, she is basically depicted as girlish, typical adolescent behavior where she faints whenever she has stress. She does not carry that much of strength as her sister. Then comes the father, that is Colonel Munro, the commander of British forces at Fort William Henry and the father of Cora and Alice. Obviously, we have mentioned this multiple times. As a young man, Munro traveled to the West Indies, where he married Cora's mother. When Munro's first wife died, he returned to Scotland and married his childhood sweetheart, who later gave birth to Alice. Although Munro is a massive, powerful man, circumstances in the war eventually, they leave him with withdrawn and ineffectuality. Then you have another character, that is General Montcalm. General Montcalm says the full name of General Montcalm is Marquis Louis Joseph de Saint Verin, known as Montcalm, is the commander of French forces fighting against England during the French and Indian War. He enlists the aid and knowledge of Indian tribes to help his French forces navigate the unfamiliar forest compact setting. After capturing Fort William Henry through his powerless to prevent the Indian massacre of the English troops. You have another character here, that is Teman. He, an ancient, wise, and revered Delaware Indian sage who has outlived three generations of warriors. There is General Webb. He is the commander of the British forces at the Fort Edward. Okay. So these are the characters you will be dealing with in the novel, and the character analysis has been even explained. Now, what are the themes that this particular novel follows? Is the first theme, you can say it is what theme it celebrates is interracial love and friendship. The Last of Mohicans is a novel about race and difficulty of overcoming racial divides. Cooper suggests that interracial mingling is both desirable and dangerous. Cooper lauds the genuine and long-time friendship between Hawkeye, a white man, and Chickengook, a Mohican Indian. And Hawkeye and Chickengook, they share a communion with nature, as if nature has transcended race, enabling them to team up against Huron enemies to save the white military leaders like Hayward. On the other hand, what happens here is Cooper shows his conviction that interracial romances are doomed and undesirable. The interracial love of Ankes and Cora ends in tragedy, and forced interracial relationship between Cora and Magua is portrayed as unnatural. Uh, Through Cora, Cooper suggests like interracial desire can be inherited. Cora desires Indian men because her mother was part black. So there is a reason behind why this particular thing is happening. The second theme that can be explored from this novel is literal and metaphorical nature. Nature functions both literally and metaphorically in The Last of the Mohicans. In its literal forms, nature is the physical frontier that surrounds the characters and complicates their battles and their chances for survival. In the opening paragraphs of chapter 1, Cooper describes the unpredictability of colonial terrain, pointing out that the cleared, flat battlefields of Europe are no longer it's no longer a setting of war anymore. So the new world has a new set of natural difficulties, and the men at war must contend not they must be content not just with each other but with the unfriendly land as well. The formatting landscape seems more daunting to English because their adversaries, the Indians loyal to France, know the land so well. So that is again a factor which keeps on bothering them. The skills of the English have no place in forests of America. David Gamert religious Calvinism or European religion becomes ridiculous in the wilderness. Metaphorically, the land serves as a blank canvas on which the character, they paint themselves. Cooper defines characters by their relationships to nature. Hawkeye establishes his claim to heroism by respecting the landscape. The English Major Hayward establishes his incompetence by misunderstanding the landscape altogether. While he means well, his unfamiliarity with the wilderness throts against him. Magua uses the landscape to carry out his villainy, hiding women in caves, jumping wildly over the abysses, and hiding behind the rocks. The third theme, which can be taken into account, is the role of religion in the wilderness. The character David Gammett allows Cooper to explore the relevance of religion in this wilderness. Um, in theory, at least, you can say that the American frontier is untouched by human culture. It is a fresh start, a piece of land not ruled by the conventions of European high culture, a place without a firm government or social code. Gammet's aggressive Calvinism symbolizes the entrance of a religion, a European model that enters the blank slate of the New World. We know Gamut is a Calvinist because he talks about predestination, the idea that God has a plan for each person and no amount of human effort can change that plan. Hawkeye's frequent mockery of Gamut's, Gamut's existence, it provides the readers a very comic relief. The mockery which comes from the mouth of the hero also suggests that the institutional religion should not attempt to penetrate the wilderness and convert its inhabitants. Because Cooper makes Gamut ridiculous and Hawkeye heroic, it seems that like Hawkeye, Cooper they scoff and they kind of mock the Calvinism's tenets. So Gamut's fatalism contrasts with Hawkeye's pragmatism. Hawkeye adapts to his surroundings and helps the other characters to achieve improbable survivals, of which suggests that Cooper believes humans do have the ability to determine their own fates. They're not dependent on any other factor for this. By the end of the novel, the Calvinist Gamut learns to move beyond the rigidity of his religion and become a helpful and committed ally. He succeeds when he finds the ability to leave behind his fatalistic passivity and adapt to the demands of the forest. Cooper's explorations of Calvinism sets the stage for many American writers of subsequent generations. They have set an open field. They have, kind of begun a new genre altogether. For example, Herman's tragic hero Ahab subscribes to the rigid belief in fate that Calvinism endorses. Then another idea, I'll just drink a bit of water. Okay. So the changing idea of family is even another theme of the entire, novel. Cooper uses the frontier setting to explore the changing status of the family unit. Cooper posits that wilderness demands a new definitions of family, and it is not like in the civilization that you stay in. Uncas and Hawkeye, for example, form a makeshift family structure where Uncas's real father, Chicken Cook, disappears without explanation in the middle portion of the novel. It's seen nowhere. Hawkeye becomes a symbolic father for Uncas. As Uncas develops his leadership qualities and emerges as a hero at the Delaware Council of Timon, he takes on some of the charisma and skill of Hawkeye, just as a son would inherit behavior from his father. Not only do Uncas and Hawkeye form a family not related by blood, they form a family that transcends race. Despite this redefinition, however, the novel does not allow new family formations that mix race. For example, the love between Cora and Uncas, it was prohibited. They do not get to act on their interracial attractions. The tragedy of this sentimental novel is that Cora and Uncas cannot redefine the notions of family according to their desires. Okay. And so this is basically the story. And there are 33 chapters in this entire, kind of novel. So, in brief, I'll be will be telling you what is the story all about so that you can have an idea and you can attend the long answers that come by. So it is in the late 1750s that the French and Indian War it grips the forest frontier of the Western New York. The French army is attacking Fort William Henry, a British outpost commanded by Colonel Munro, as I've mentioned. Munro's daughters Alice and Cora set out from Fort Edward to visit their father, escorted through the dangerous forest by Major Duncan Hayward and guided by an Indian named Magua. Soon they are joined by David Gammon, a singing master and religious follower of Calvinism. Traveling cautiously, the group encounters the White Scout Natty Bumpo, who goes by the name Hawkeye, and his two Indian companions, Chinkaguk and Ankas. Chinkaguk's son, right, the only surviving member of the once great Mohican tribe. Hawkeye says that Magua, a Huron, has betrayed the group by leading them into the wrong direction. The Mohicans attempt to capture the traitorous Huron, but he escapes. Hawkeye and the Mohicans lead the group to safety in a cave near a waterfall, but Huron, allies of Magua, they attack early next morning. Hawkeye and the Mohicans escape down the river, but Huron captures Alice, Cora, Hayward, and Gamut. Magua celebrates the kidnapping. When Hayward tries to convert Magua into the English side, the Huron reveals that he seeks revenge on Munro for past humiliation and proposes to free Alice if Cora will marry him. Now, Cora has romantic feelings for Ankes, however, and angrily refuses Magua, obviously. Suddenly, Hawkeye and the Mohicans burst onto scene, rescuing the captives and killing every Huron but Magua, who escapes actually. After a harrowing journey impeded by the Indian attacks, The group reaches Fort William Henry and the English stronghold. They sneak through the French army, besieging the fort, and once inside, Cora and Alice reunite with their father. Then, a few days later, what happens is the English forces call for a truce. Now they want a settlement. Munro learns that he will receive no reinforcements for the fort and will have to surrender. He reveals to Hayward that Cora's mother was part Negro, which explains her dark complexion and raven hair. Munro accuses Hayward of racism because he prefers to marry blonde Alice over dark Cora, but Hayward denies the charge. During the withdrawal of the English troops from Fort William Henry, the Indian allies of the French indulged their bloodlust and prey upon the vulnerable retreating soldiers. In the chaos of slaughter, what Magua does in between is he manages to recapture Cora and Alice and Gamut and to escape with them into the forest. Then he escapes with these people into the forest. 3 days later, Hayward, Hawkeye, Munro, and the Mohicans discover Magua's trail and begin to pursue the villain. Gamut reappears and explains that Magua has separated his captives and confining Alice to a Huron camp and sending Cora to a Delaware camp. Using deception and a variety of disguises, the group manages to rescue Alice from the Hurons, at which point Hayward confesses his romantic interest in her. At the Delaware village, Magua convinces that the Hawkeye and his companions are their racist enemies. Ankes reveals his exalted heritage to Delaware sage Tamon and then demands the release of all his friends but Cora, who he admits belongs to Magua. Then Magua departs with Cora. A chase and a battle, it follows, it ensues. Magua and his Hurons suffer painful defeat, but a rogue Huron kills Cora. Ankes begins to attack the Hurons who killed Cora, but Magua stabs Ankes in the back. And Magua tries to leap across a great divide, but he falls short and must cling to a shrub to avoid tumbling off and dying. And later on, this fellow even dies. Hawkeye shoots him, and Magua at last plummets to his death. He gives up, he has to die. Cora and Ankas receive a proper burials the next morning amid ritual chants performed by the Delawares. Chickencook mourns the loss of his son, while Tamon sorrowfully declares that he has lived to see the last warrior of the noble race of the Mohicans. So, this is the story. These are the characters that you will be dealing with, and the literary devices, the themes have been discussed as well. So, is there anything that you want to ask? Is there anything that you wish to ask? Yes, please, Suman, go ahead. See, the first question that you have asked here is, are there particular characters in the novel Native Americans, in fact, that feel believable and nuanced. See, there definitely, Cooper believes on the stereotypes. It is very obvious from the fact that he has not entertained interracial like relationships to bloom. Yet you can even say that he has like opened doors for a different genre of writing, where the relationships that the Indians and the Americans they share as friends have been entertained. So you cannot limit yourself with the fact that he believes, or he has given a nuanced understanding of interracial relationships. He has actually not taken any side. He has put it a very balanced, opinion on this. Okay, I hope I've clarified your question. Is there anything else to ask? Okay. So basically, these were the characters. This was the novel, and please ask any questions if you have any. Do you want me to give you a few questions, important questions on this? Okay. Yes. I cleared this, I guess. Do you does the writer provide any nuanced understanding of the character? That is what I've discussed earlier, I guess. You missed on it. See, the character, I mean, the writer here, he has not given a very. The second question is okay. Is Hawkeye the hero of the novel? And if so, why isn't he more involved in romantic relationships? Mm-hmm. Okay. Hawkeye is written, he is portrayed as the hero in the novel, no doubt. And why has he not been into romantic relationships? His portrayal of romantic relationship with Alice has been a part of the novel. It's not as such that he has not been a part of the romantic relationship part. No. Hawkeye is basically the protagonist of the novel, and he is known by many names. That is Natty Bumppo, La Long, Carabine, the Long Rifle, the Scout, Hawkeye himself. Hawkeye, stars in several of Cooper's novels, which are known collectively as the Leather Stocking Tales. So Hawkeye's chief strength is adaptability. He adapts to difficulties of the frontier and bridges the divide between in white and the Indian cultures. He's an hybrid, and he identifies himself by his white race and his Indian social world, in which his closest friend are the Mohicans, that is Chicken and the Uncas. His hybrid background, you know what, it breeds both productive alliances and disturbingly racist conventions. On one hand, Hawkeye cherishes individuality and makes judgments without regards to race. He cherishes his Indian friend for his value as an individual, not for a superficial multiculturalism thought that fashionably is ahead of its time. On the other hand, Hawkeye demonstrates an almost obsessive investment in his own genuine whiteness. Also, while Hawkeye supports interracial friendships between men, he objects to these kind of interracial sexual desires between man and a woman. And because of his contradictory opinion, the protagonist of The Last Mohican embodies 19th century Americans' ambivalence without race and nature. So, Hawkeye's most racist views predict the cultural warfare around the issues of race that continue to haunt the United States of America. So, this is basically his idea of interracial relationships that, like, you know, keeps him away from romantic relationship. He idealizes friendship with interrace, but he is not ready to be involved in interracial sexual desires in the case of Cora and Unkis, as in the case of Cora and Unkis. My pleasure, Suman. Thank you.